Pokérogue has been completely blowing up as of late, with all of your favorite creators making content surrounding this game. For those who don't know what Pokérogue is, it is a roguelike game where you have to do 200 Pokemon battles in a row. These battles include wild Pokemon, trainers, boss Pokemon, and even Elite Four members. Pokérogue was made for Pokemon veterans who just find the normal games way too easy. I don't know what the type chart is. But never mind that, I'm sure it won't be too bad, and I definitely won't spend more than 20 hours on this, right? Well, that's enough jibber jabber from me. Let's just get into today's video. When it came to picking starters, I really did not have a clue on who I should pick. For my first run, I picked Cyndaquil because it had that purple box around it indicating that it had Pokérush. Then I picked Mudkip because I know that Swampert is a very good Pokemon, and I went with Bulbasaur because you can never go wrong with Bulbasaur. At the beginning of the run, I was very confident I could get this done in a couple of hours. A little overconfident. Dude, realistically, I'm probably going to be done with this in like 3, 4, maybe 5 hours. Yeah, some big talk from somebody who can't remember to start their timer. Also, one very crucial feature in this game is that after every battle, you get to pick between a selection of items. The items on the top cost money, and you can get as many of them as you want, as long as you can afford them, and the items on the bottom are completely free, but you can only pick one of them. After finishing level 2, I got the TM Avalanche, which is really nice, and I was able to teach it to Mudkip. Then, after beating level 4, I was blessed with an XP All. What it does is give all the other Pokemon in your party 20% of the XP that the Pokemon that did the battle got, and this is stackable. On floor 7, I had my first double battle, which wasn't too much of an issue. Then, it happens. Our first encounter with our rival, Ivy. Ivy sent out a Charmander, so I sent out my Mudkip. I was able to take out Charmander, but I was only left on 2 HP. Luckily for me, she only had one more Pokemon, the flying type Rookidee. Let's see, I'll just send in Bulbasaur. Give Bulbasaur some playing time. Should be fine. Oh. Yeah, this is where I said I don't know what the type chart is. Then, for some godforsaken reason, I decided to double down and try to keep Bulbasaur in. But I was able to send out Cyndaquil to finish off the fight. Even though this fight wasn't too bad, I would have to fight Ivy again on levels 25, 55, 95, 145, and 195. And on some of those battles, it can be pretty rough. On floor 10, I had my first boss battle, but it really wasn't too much of an issue. On floor 15, I had to have a double battle with these two kids' Pokemon. So Ember definitely kills, so I'm just gonna protect Mudkip. Yeah, okay. On floor 16, we had our first evolution of the run. On floor 19, my Mudkip evolved into a Marshtomp, and I had this to say. I'm not saying it's a downgrade, I just think he looks really goofy. It could be worse. Level 20 was a breeze. Then, this happened. Up to this point, Quilava has been my sweeper, and I don't think I can do that anymore. But look everybody, I started my timer! On level 23, Bulbasaur evolved into Ivysaur. Yeah, it is quite clear that Bulbasaur is my least favorite. Time for another rival battle. I sent out Marshtomp to take care of Ivy's Charmeleon. 4 fainted Pokemon later, I used Marshtomp to take care of her last Pokemon, winning the fight. Then, floor 30 happens. And just like that, a whole run wasted due to one crazy strong Gyarados. And most of my next couple runs had the same fate. That is until run number 8. This time I actually put some thought into who I picked. I picked Meowth for its signature move Fake Out and its ability Technician, which dramatically increases the damage of low power moves. Also, Fuecoco could become really powerful when it evolves into Skeledirge and it gains the move Torch Song, which not only raises its attack stat, but it has an incredible 80 base power. For the first rival battle, Mudkip easily swept. I swept so easily in fact, Ivy thought I was cheating. On level 20, I had a battle with Charon, but it really wasn't hard at all. Then on level 22, I somehow got another XP all. Also, even though I didn't mention it, I did use the egg gacha and I got a Manaphy egg, but unfortunately we got the much worse Phione. Then on floor 25, I made one of the best plays in this entire run. I used the move Encore to trap Rabu into only being able to use agility for the next 3 turns, which ultimately paid off, and after that it was smooth sailing for defeating Ivy. Then I easily one-shot the level 30 boss. On level 35, something caught my eye. I really wanted to catch this Ninjask, and luckily I caught it with my first Pokeball. And after beating the level 40 boss, my Meowth evolved into a Persian. On level 42, this happened. You know what? Sure. Yeah, my luck this run has been pretty crazy. And speaking of crazy luck, we take those. All day we take those. Then level 45. Yes! Now he can just do the Torch Song Go Burr thing. Level 55. Have to fight Ivy once again. But this time, she has many more Pokemon. I sent out Skeledirge to just spam Hyper Voice, and it got Cinderace low enough to where Ivy had to switch out into Unpheasant. Skeledirge then went absolutely crazy, one-shotting not only Pawniard, but also Ivy's Passimian. Then I got even more crazy luck, and I got a Super XP Charm as one of my items. Once I got into the 70s, the dominance of Skeledirge became readily apparent, as he could just one-shot every single Pokemon. On level 80, I had a gym battle, but unfortunately for the gym leader, one of the only type chart pairings I do know is that Fire beats Grass. I used Skeledirge to sweep once again. Then on floor 90, this happened. And it's just not been too bad. So you mean to tell me that this is not just a lawnmower? And people are like, oh yeah, Gen 5 has the worst Pokemon designs. It's just like an ice cream cone. This is just a lawnmower. I will not accept any more slander on Generation 5. Yeah, I will forever stand by Gen 5 being a good Pokemon gen. But you should let me know what your favorite Pokemon generation is in the comments. Alternatively, you could leave a like or subscribe. Anywho, you already know what time it is. I know that Ivy's just gonna switch out, but Hydro Pump still does big damage anyway. I keep Passimian low, but Ivy switches out to Unpheasant, who goes down. Yeah, I probably should mention that I have retries enabled, but it's not cheating if it's an in-game feature. A couple of attempts and a couple of times googling the type chart later, I had finally beaten floor 95. And nothing of interest really happened until floor 145, where things happened. There were a lot of deaths, so I'm just gonna do a quick cut of all of them. The sad part is that is a very small fraction of the amount of deaths I had. But eventually, I finally got past floor 145. Only for this guy named Kofu to ruin my run. I wish I was joking, but this battle was just unwinnable. Only a couple hours later, I was finally able to start the run. I truly had assembled the dream team. Tinkatink, who, unbeknownst to me at the time, would become the MVP of this run. A shiny Mudkip, who I got from an egg, and I mean, that's pretty cool. And Fuecoco, who, Torch Song Go Burr. I fight Ivy for the first time in this run on floor 8, and unfortunately she has a Charmander, but it could be worse. And only a couple embers later, I took down Ivy. Routes kind of just sat in my party until it evolved into Gardevoir, where it became very powerful. On floor 13, I got the Amulet coin. Money! 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 On floor 14, I got the most valuable TM in this entire run. Just trust me, you'll see what I mean. After collecting yet another Super XP charm, I headed into the second Ivy battle. After 2 minutes of constant switch-ins, I finally defeated Ivy. On floor 32, Tinkatink evolved into Tinkatuff. Chad, is this tough? Cause it says tough. Chad, is this tough? Yeah, if you can't tell, playing Pokérogue for 18.5 hours has taken a toll on my mental state. Metal pipe falling. Reverb fart. On floor 49, Crocodile evolved into Skeledirge, aka my sunshine, aka the goat. Then the server got DDoSed. Tinkaton then evolved into Tinkaton, where she learned Gigaton Hammer, which would become vital later in the run. On level 53, I got my 4th XP all, which was very beneficial. On floor 55, I had yet another rival battle. I knew I would have to switch Tinkaton out, but first I used Fake Out because it would do a little damage and it would prevent Charizard from moving. Then I used one more turn to set up a Stealth Rocks, which does damage every time a Pokemon is switched in. One Rock Slide from Swampert was able to take out Charizard with ease. Then Staraptor got sent in, and Staraptor took a good amount of damage from the Stealth Rocks that Tinkaton set up earlier. Here I sack Swampert just so I can get a free switch into my Skeledirge. In this scenario, I know I can kill with other moves, but I decide to use a Torch Song just so I can build up my special attack. Because I'm +2 attack right now, I use a Hyper Voice to take care of Dracovish. Then Ivy sends out Staraptor, who dies to the Pointed Stones. For Metang, I actually knew the type chart, so I was able to take Metang out in one hit. And just like that, I defeated Ivy once again. On floor 57, I picked up a Breloom, who would become very important later. On level 59, my Curlia evolved into a Gardevoir.
It's just a Pokemon, let's stay civil here.
On floor 67, I saw one of my favorite Pokemon. Then, on floor 70, I used one singular move to take care of the boss. Then, fast forward a little bit more to floor 95, and I'm fighting Ivy again. I send out Swampert to take care of Dracovish, but Swampert gets too low, and I have to switch out to my Breloom. Ivy switches out Dracovish for Staraptor, but joke's on her, because Focus Punch is super effective. Ivy's Charizard unfortunately takes out my Skeledirge, so I switch into Tinkaton, which might seem like a weird choice. But I can use Magical Torque to confuse Charizard, and from there, Charizard's very easy to take care of. Then Gardevoir takes care of Metagross and Electabuzz. And with one more Thunderbolt, I had defeated Ivy. What? What are you? Dude, hold on. I need to give that some voice acting real quick.
What? What are you? Also, leave a like and subscribe.
Thank you, Peter, for the wonderful life advice. The floor 100 boss was very easy to take care of. Oh, 1 second, I have a Game Pigeon 8-ball. Yes, okay. Anyway, floor 100 was a breeze, and it was finally time to move on to the second half of this run. On floor 102, I saw another one of my favorite Pokemon. On floor 104, this happened. Because I like the shiny too, it's just there's no point in taking the camera up. I mean, I'm gonna catch him anyway, just for the shiny starter, but there's nowhere to use them. Well, I guess 07s to the camera up. For the next 10 floors, I just use Skeledirge, and occasionally I would enlist the help of Tinkaton. After easily sweeping Gym Leader Grant's Pokemon, I made my way to the mountain biome. A little editor's note here, I picked this song because it's the mountain theme in New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, but this song is just so good, I'm gonna little moment of silence just to appreciate how good this song is. Nothing crazy happened on the next couple of floors. Skeledirge and Tinkaton just took care of everything. On floor 118, I saw the multi-lens, but I didn't pick it up. It just didn't seem good at the time. Maybe people who know what they're doing are really mad at me right now for not picking this up, but it worked out. Because the next biome I went to was a volcano, and that just was a lot of fire Pokemon, Swampert kind of just soloed everything. The next biome I went to was the Ice Cave biome, where I caught a Crebopnable, but he didn't stay on the team for very long. I used one singular move for the next several battles, and on floor 138, I found a Weavile. I'm gonna get it low-ish. Hope it doesn't kill, but that was a little closer than I would have liked. But yeah, this replaces Crebopnable, and it's nice because we don't have any dark types on the team, so nice. On floor 140, I had a fight with the gym leader Grusha, but the only thing on my mind was level 145. Last time I was on level 145, I was stuck there for hours on end. And this time, I was just praying things would go better. To ease my mind a little bit before going into the fight, I gambled away my life savings. Oh yeah, that's a great coping mechanism. But after 4 battles of pressing one button, it was finally time to face Ivy. Ivy starts with Charizard and I start with Skeledirge. I try to set up with the Torch Song, but unfortunately Ivy switches into Dracovish. I send in Breloom and use Focus Punch, and Ivy sends out Rayquaza. I switch into Weavile and I get a lucky 30% Hurricane miss. I know that Ivy's gonna switch into Charizard, and so I get a free Night Slash on Charizard. And because I outspeed, I'm able to take out Charizard with my Weavile. Then, with 3 Night Slashes, I take out Dracovish. Electivire took out Weavile, and Swampert took another third of Rayquaza's HP. Swampert tanked a Hurricane, and with one more Rock Slide, Rayquaza was defeated. Then, I sent out Skeledirge, and Skeledirge took care of everybody else. And I can't lie to you guys, beating something that took me hours on end last time in the first attempt made me feel so confident about this run. Maybe the run would be over soon, and I wouldn't have to put another 20 hours into beating this godforsaken game. Also, on the level right after the Ivy fight, I got my 5th and final EXPR. Then my eggs hatched, and I didn't really get anything, but who cares when you get $30,000 right after? From this moment on, I decided that I could not let this run die. This basically sums everything up. And for the next several levels, there was really no challenge because Skeledirge solos, even boss Pokemon. On floor 168, I had a trainer battle, which was decently difficult, but it really wasn't too challenging. Swampert got Blastoise low, and because the trainer switched into Jumpluff got one shot. My shiny little Swampert was also able to take out Stoutland, no problem. Gardevoir took out Blastoise. Then Skeledirge took out Aromatisse, Jinx, and Beedrill, finishing up the battle. For the next 20 or so floors, Skeledirge just soloed again. Yeah, maybe Skeledirge is a little bit, broken. On floor 182, the gauntlet of the Elite Four and a random champion started. I end up using 3 Torch Songs on Bewear, which not only takes out Bewear, but also increases my attack by a lot. And due to my increased special attack, I'm able to take out Poliwrath with a Flamethrower and an Overheat. Skeledirge one-shot Toxicroak and barely hung on to one-shot Emperor. Then, Gardevoir finished up the fight, but I don't even have time to stop and catch my breath, because right after I have to fight Olivia. But the fight wasn't too hard, as I just used Swampert for the most part, and I used Skeledirge to finish things up. Then the servers went down again. The servers went back up, and I had to do the next Elite Four battle, which was an absolute joke. Just watch. And much like that last battle, this battle wasn't too much of a challenge. The battle with the champion was definitely a little bit harder. And to be completely honest, this champion battle was just a lot of switching in and out tomfoolery. Now, finally, I find myself in the last 10 levels. And I'm on Final Destination from Smash Bros for some reason, but that's besides the point. Coming up next, on floor 195, I have the final rival fight against Ivy, which is super difficult. And then only 5 levels later, with no automatic healing in between, I have to fight the final boss, Eternatus. Yeah, if you couldn't tell from the picture, Eternatus is one menacing guy. And even more menacing of a boss fight. And with that, it was time to fight Ivy one last time. This fight, in all honesty, broke me. The worst part of this battle is this little demon right here. He has 1, 2, 3, 4 health bars. I have 1. I don't see how this is balanced. And speaking of 1, 2, 3, 4, it took me 1, 2, 3, 4 hours to do this fight. I'm gonna save myself some time, and I'm gonna save you guys some time by just cutting to the last attempt. And let me just say, this last attempt is a work of art. Before I started this battle, I already had a plan. One thing about this game is that the AI really likes switching out if the type combination does not work well for them. I know Ivy's gonna switch into Rayquaza, so I switch into Tinkaton, and that's gonna cause the AI to switch out again, because Dragon cannot damage Fairy. And with that move right there, I won the battle. Did you catch that? Hold on, let me go back. Stealth Rocks, a move that damages a Pokemon every time it switches in, which usually isn't too much of a problem because Pokemon trainers don't constantly switch in Pokemon. Except in this game, they do. And guess what, Ivy? I can read your mind. I knew you were going to send in that Rayquaza, and now I know you're going to switch out to your Metagross. It is all part of my plan. And with just repeating this switching in and out, that's Metagross taken care of, and a good amount of damage on Dracovish, who's a big threat. And with the Moonblast, Gardevoir gets Mega Rayquaza to half HP. Ivy sends out Dracovish, I send out Gardevoir, and with another Moonblast, that's Dracovish taken care of as well. Staraptor goes down to an overheat. Charizard gets Wombo comboed by Pointed Stones and Gigaton Hammer. Both Metagross and Electivire are taken out by Pointed Stones. And with a Magical Torque, Rayquaza is defeated. And after that, I get one last heartfelt goodbye from Ivy before I have to take on Eternatus. At this point, I had done some research and I had watched people do this boss fight, and the scariest move is Recover, where Eternatus just recovers all of its health that it lost, which is very not fair. Yeah, I can't do that. But I can get a Magical Torque crit that also confuses Eternatus. And just like that, I leave Eternatus on one hit. He just evolves mid-fight, which is some Pokemon anime type behavior, which is not fair, but I get a second Pokemon, so I guess it's kind of balanced. I take a lot of damage from Eternatus's Flamethrower, but I'm able to get a Paralyze off with Thunder Wave. And for the rest of the fight, I don't do anything crazy, and I just get chip damage in with different Pokemon. Please, just please survive. Yes. And just like that, I had finally beaten Pokérogue, and it only took me 27 hours. I know I didn't have that crazy of a reaction, but I was just trying to get over the fact that I had finally beaten this game. If you want a good reaction, just look at this. And that's basically it. If there's anything to take away from this video, it's that I guess hard work pays off and Tinkaton is broken. But that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah, this video is really fun to make. I strongly recommend you go play Pokérogue. It is definitely the best Pokemon fan game I have ever played. And if you like this video, just consider subscribing.